Buddhist monks and nuns are joined by thousands of sympathizers to protest the government's restrictions on the practice of their religion in South Vietnam.
Diem began by alienating the rural population, and that started the Viet Cong. Now he was alienating the urban population.
70% of the population is Buddhist, and the demonstrators clashed with the police during the week-long series of incidents like this.
In the months that followed the Battle of Ap Bac, South Vietnam plunged into civil strife that had little to do with the Viet Cong. Religion and nationalism were at its heart. A Catholic minority had for years dominated the government of an overwhelmingly Buddhist country. That spring, in the city of Hue, Christian flags had been flown to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the ordination of Diem's older brother as a Catholic bishop. But when the Buddhists of the city flew their flags to celebrate the 2,527th birthday of Lord Buddha, police tore them down. Protesters took to the streets. The Catholic deputy province chief sent security forces to suppress the demonstration. The soldiers opened fire. 8 protesters died. The youngest was 12. The oldest was 20. The Diem regime blamed the Viet Cong. Monks throughout the country demanded an apology. They also called for an end to discrimination by Catholic officials. Many Buddhists had come to see Diem's policies as a direct threat to their religious beliefs.
My family was against what Diem was doing. My mother was convinced that Diem was destroying the Buddhist faith. She would go to the pagodas and listen to the monks' speeches, and she was just extremely upset. She was not alone. There was a lot of people like her.
American officials urged Diem and his brother Nhieu to make meaningful concessions to the Buddhists for the sake of maintaining unity in the struggle against communism. They refused. On June 10, 1963, Malcolm Brown of the Associated Press received an anonymous tip. Something important was going to happen the next day at a major intersection in Saigon. He took his camera. To protest the Diem regime's repression, a 73-year-old monk named Quang Duc set himself on fire. As a large, hushed crowd watched him burn to death, another monk repeated over and over again in English and Vietnamese, "A Buddhist monk becomes a martyr. A Buddhist monk becomes a martyr."
I remember they held the ashes of the monk who burned himself to death, where it was kept in one of the main pagodas. And lines of people came to pass by, and I saw these women, not rich women, ordinary Vietnamese women, take off the one piece of gold they had on their wedding ring and drop it in the bottle to contribute to the struggle. And I thought to myself, this regime is over. It's the end.
Soon, other monks would become martyrs. Fresh outbursts by Madame Nhieu only made things worse. Burning monks made her clap her hands, she said. If more monks wanted to burn themselves, she would provide the matches.
The only thing they have done, they have barbecued one of their monks, whom they have intoxicated, whom they have abused the confidence. And even that barbecuing was done not even with self-sufficient means, because they used imported gasoline.
They thought she was arrogant, she was power-hungry. They suspected her and her husband of being corrupt. New ran the secret police, which arrested and tortured people. People feared the Diem regime, perhaps more than they feared. They really hated it.
Students, including many Catholics, rallied to the Buddhist cause. So did some army officers.
People among the military had to ask the question, can we continue this kind of situation like that when the whole country was almost burning with the kind of protest from the Buddhists, you see?
I first became aware of Vietnam because of a burning monk. We had watched the civil rights movement in the South, and it had set the standard for us to stand up against injustice, allow yourself to be beaten up, allow yourself to be attacked by a dog or hit by a police truncheon. And we had enormous respect for people who were willing to go that far. And then one day in 1963, we saw on television a picture of a monk in Saigon. This was an extraordinary act. Why was a Buddhist monk burning himself on the streets of Saigon?
The protests continued. Tensions between Washington and Saigon steadily worsened. The more the Kennedy administration demanded change, the more Diem and his brother Nhu seemed to resist. The White House announced that a new American ambassador, former Senator Henry Cabot Lodge, was being sent to Saigon, a man eminent enough, the president hoped, to make Diem listen more closely to American advice. Diem professed to be unimpressed. They can send 10 lodges, he said, but I will not let myself or my country be humiliated, not if they train their artillery on this palace. He did promise the outgoing ambassador, Frederick Nolting, that he would take no further repressive steps against the Buddhists. Then, a few minutes after midnight on August 21st, 1963, with Nolting gone and Henry Cabot Lodge's arrival still one day away, Diem cut the phone lines of all the senior American officials in Saigon and sent hundreds of his special forces storming into Buddhist pagodas in Saigon, Hue, and several other South Vietnamese cities. Some 1,400 monks and nuns, students and ordinary citizens were rounded up and taken away. Martial law was imposed. Public meetings were forbidden. Troops were authorized to shoot anyone found on the streets after 9 o'clock.
Tanks guard a pagoda in Saigon during South Vietnam's bafflingly complicated crisis that has the government of President Ngo Dinh, students and Buddhists, and the United States government all trying to guess one another's next move.
When college students protested in support of the monks, Diem closed Vietnam's universities. High school students then poured into the streets. He shut down all the high schools and the grammar schools too, and arrested thousands of school children, including the sons and daughters of officials in his own government.
I participated in the demonstrations. I strongly believe that that government has to be overthrown, because it's a dictator government. We couldn't stand it anymore, and this is an opportunity to rise against it.
Phan Quang Thuy was a law student that summer. His father was a prominent nationalist whom Diem had jailed for calling for greater democracy.
I was, and I'm still, a Catholic, not a very good Catholic. I don't practice religiously, but I'm a Catholic. I was rightly arrested because I did participate in the demonstration. And I was interrogated and briefly tortured, beaten a little bit.
Henry Cabot Lodge took over as U.S. ambassador in the midst of the turmoil, and he is reported to have demanded that President Diem's brother Nhu be ousted, or U.S. aid to Vietnam will be cut.
In the wake of the pagoda raids, a small group of South Vietnamese generals contacted the CIA in Saigon. Diem's brother Nhu was now largely in control of the government, they said. What would Washington's reaction be if they mounted a coup?